Good afternoon. My name is Lyndon Johnson, and I'm doing a presentation for Economics 211, Section 3, from my lecturer, Mr. Steele McCarty. My topic of the day is COVID-19, a catalyst for unemployment in the Bahamas. And for a brief introduction, the purpose of this presentation is to conduct an investigative study of the disastrous effect of the coronavirus on employment in the Bahamas. I would like to discuss the negative effect that the pandemic has on the economy and how it is linked to a rise in unemployment in the country. But before we start, we must first ask ourselves, what is unemployment? Well, unemployment represents the amount of labor force not being used at a certain time. Unemployment is an issue as it wastes resources, the main one being labor. Even in the future, if the unemployment rate were to fall, it would be impossible to make up for the output that could have been produced had the rate been lower in the first place. Reasons for unemployment? There are many different reasons for unemployment, which are categorized. Some are more detrimental than others. For example, frictional unemployment. This kind of unemployment normally doesn't last very long. Anyone being fired, quitting, or experiencing any kind of change that will result in the loss of their current job can experience frictional unemployment. As for structural, a result of major permanent decline in demand for the product the industry is providing will leave people out of jobs. Seasonal, this kind of unemployment will always exist because the job is never permanent and only takes place for a short time. And last but not least, general unemployment. This is the most serious kind of unemployment that occurs when the economy can't afford the goods and services which could have been produced had there been full employment. This means that if the industry is suffering from a recession and the employer can't afford to pay all employees, as a result, some employees may be fired. The effects of unemployment. The reason the pandemic is a different situation is because although this can be classified as general unemployment, the effect it has on the economy is far worse and can have a longer lasting effect on the economy. Unemployment can have a large impact on retailers, wholesalers, and producers. The lack in a job will greatly influence consumers' spending habits. When consumers refrain from spending money, they negatively affect the profit of retailers. Ultimately, this will cause a chain reaction that will continue with the producer having to decrease production of the product and maybe even fire some workers to help the company's size adjust to the fit of demand of its consumers. Hence, unemployment breeds more unemployment. Continued. As unemployment rises, more labor is wasted, and as a result, the country will produce less in relativity to the amount of goods and services that could be produced if more people were put to work. The country may move backwards because of unemployment, and this is called negative economic growth. Solutions. Unfortunately, there's not much that we can do about the pandemic itself, but as a country, we can implement protocols to work around the situation. Even though these are not as simple, some suggestions are fiscal policies. When the government funds projects such as building infrastructure, our road construction members of the labor force must be brought in to complete the tasks the government lays out for them. With the sudden demand for labor, the unemployed could meet this demand and unemployment will fall, even if only by a marginal amount. Also, we have monetary policies. The central bank can reduce the amount of loans going through the economy. The less loans there are, the less injections of money there is into the economy, and thus the inflation rate is reduced. Reducing inflation increases the purchasing power of the money. Thus, businesses will be able to lower their prices. And last but not least, a virtual workplace. Creating an online working environment that is just as efficient as the on-site workplace it is obvious this is not going to apply to all jobs, but it can lower unemployment by a lot if all potential workplaces were to apply this method. Conclusion. Unemployment represents the amount of labor not being used at a certain time. Unemployment is an issue as it wastes resources, the main one being labor. The reason for unemployment represents the amount of labor force not being used at a certain time. Unemployment is an issue as it wastes resources, the main one being labor. The reason for unemployment is by choice for better opportunity, decline of industry, seasonal employment, and recession. Some solutions to unemployment in the pandemic are fiscal policies, monetary policies, and virtual workplaces. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you for your time.